Hi, everyone. I've had a question come up a lot in my sessions lately, especially from people who are dealing with some kind of hormonal imbalance. And the question is, I'm coming to you with, you know, thyroid issues or adrenal fatigue or endometriosis, and you're talking to me about healing my gut. I'm not talking about my digestive system, I'm talking about my endocrine system. Why are you focused on my digestive system when the issue is in my endocrine system? Now, a lot of people who have endocrine issues also have like very obvious digestive issues, right? But some people it's not manifesting that way, and so they're very confused as to why I'm talking about the gut when they came to me with some kind of hormonal issue or hormonal imbalance. Um, a lot of times they've been told by other practitioners, you have hyperthyroid, you have adrenal fatigue, you have estrogen dominance, right? They've gotten some kind of label that focuses on the hormonal system. And yet, they've tried to treat it through herbs and supplements and some basic dietary shifts, maybe some lifestyle things here and there, and they haven't gotten results. That's why they're coming to me. And then I start talking to them about the gut and the digestive system, and they're like, whoa, 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 how is this relevant? And really, that's because if we want to get to the root of endocrine dysfunction, we need to address the gut. These are not separate things that we need to address separately. All of our bodily systems are connected to each other and influence each other, right? We tend to have this very categorical, um, putting everything in their little box, kind of way of looking at the world. And it's just not accurate. It's a great way to, make an index when you're, composing some kind of a scientific compilation, but it's just not how nature works. And our bodies are these complex, interrelated systems that are actually very hard to distinguish once you really start digging into it. And so when people are coming to me with something like adrenal fatigue, I'm absolutely going to address the gut first because we need to look at the internal ecosystem. And there's a few reasons for this. One is blood sugar. And blood sugar, again, is often considered an endocrine issue, right? Because like insulin, and glucagon and all the hormones that go into processing sugar, they're hormones, right? And so it's usually considered part of the endocrine system when you're looking at blood sugar. And that's true. But we also need to look at why someone's blood sugar is dysregulated. And often, most of the time, that is due to excess intake of carbohydrates, especially processed carbohydrates, and basically, modern Western food. And so the reason that people have a hard time controlling themselves around these types of refined carbohydrates is usually because there is underlying microbiome imbalance. When people are having insatiable cravings for foods that are giving no nutritional value into their body, right? If someone has a craving for cheese or steak or even fruit or other things, often that is a true craving. But if someone's having a craving it's for like pizza or donuts, right, that is definitely your microbiome talking, and is not your human cells, and it is an unhealthy microbiome talking, right, because there's no clear nutrients in those foods that your body should be craving, but it is keeping something alive. And so, this is often what causes the blood sugar dysregulation in the first place, is addiction to carbohydrates through microbiome imbalance. Now, this is connected to these hormonal issues. I mean, insulin is obviously a hormone, but also in order to properly produce all of our other hormones, right, progesterone, and thyroid hormone, and all of these things, we need to be in a state where our blood sugar is balanced, right? We cannot be having big spikes and dips in our blood sugar and expect to be properly producing our hormones. So, balancing the blood sugar is a huge part of healing the endocrine system, and healing the microbiome is a big part of sustainably rebalancing the blood sugar, because often I find if you just put people on a blood sugar balancing diet without actually addressing the microbiome, people will not do well. It won't be sustainable because they'll have these cravings that they just can't get rid of. And so they'll get off track and they'll binge, and we're just stuck in this cycle. So blood sugar is deeply related to hormonal health, and it is a microbiome issue for the most part. The other issue is that gut dysbiosis itself creates a kind of mimicry of estrogen dominance. So there are a lot of bacteria that when they overgrow, the toxins they produce do mimic estrogen. And so this is especially relevant for people who their hormones are looking normal on paper when they do a lab test, but they're having all the symptoms of estrogen dominance. Right? So a lot of times it's not actually that their body is making too much estrogen or not making enough progesterone, it's that they have this overgrowth of bacteria that is producing toxins that is mimicking estrogen in the body. The other thing with gut dysbiosis is that when your ecosystem is imbalanced, it's a stressful state for the body, right? When you have all these chronic infections, your immune system is going to be in an activated state. Your nervous system, obviously your immune system is going to be activated, but your nervous system is also going to be in an activated state. So it's stressful to be constantly fighting chronic infections, to have a threat existing inside your own body, right, from a nervous system perspective. And a lot of times people's histamine levels are elevated, they're feeling anxious and agitated all the time. And this is not a good state for the body to be in to be optimally producing their hormones. Because again, the endocrine system tends to be put on hold when the body is in a stress state, when the blood sugar is dysregulated or there's just cortisol floating around in the blood, right? And so this sets the stage also for endocrine imbalance, just from the body being chronically stressed from all these, infections that are going on. Another really interesting thing is that when we have leaky gut, which comes hand in hand with microbiome imbalance, right? Because a lot of times we have these overgrowths of microbes that are kind of burrowing into the gut wall or inflaming the gut wall, and then we get the tight junctions of the gut start to pull apart as they get inflamed, and then we get the leaky gut phenomenon, right? And this is a major cause of autoimmune conditions that tend to attack endocrine glands. So autoimmune conditions that tend to attack the thyroid or the adrenals or the ovaries. What happens is that toxins and proteins from food are getting into places in the body where they shouldn't get. And they're often docking into receptors in these endocrine glands because maybe the proteins kind of mimic a protein that actually should be docking there, right? Some receptor that is trying to be connected to. But these kind of proteins in foods and some of these toxins, they're similar chemically to some of the things we actually do want docking into those ports. And because of that, they fill up those receptors, right? And so those endocrine glands are not then producing those hormones correctly, right? And the body is then seeing that there are toxins kind of clogging up these endocrine glands, and the immune system tries to pull them out, right? And in the process, it also is attacking the cells of those endocrine glands as kind of a part of its immune process, right? And then we call this autoimmunity, right? And we call it like, oh my gosh, the body is attacking itself, right? But there are reasons the body is doing that, right? It's usually because of a leaky gut phenomenon and toxins and food proteins getting into areas they're not supposed to be, and the immune system doing the best job it can trying to clean up that damage. And so this is autoimmunity, and this is Hashimoto's, and these are these other autoimmune diseases that are connected to endocrine glands. So again, the key is actually in the microbiome, not in the organ itself. The detoxification system is also a big one because we need to detoxify our excess hormones, right? We can't just have a bunch of extra estrogen or, adrenaline floating around in our body. It needs to be detoxified nightly. And a major issue in terms of people's detox pathways getting closed is not that they have some kind of like deep genetic malfunction. Like I hear people say that too, like, oh, my detox pathways just don't work. No, they do work. They're just kind of clogged up, right? They're just overloaded. Um, and so resetting the microbiome is the best way to open up your detox channels, because usually what's overloading your detox channels is excess toxicity from all the pathogens that shouldn't be there, and all living things like excrete toxins, right? And if we have too many of particularly toxic types of species, then it's going to clog up your detox channels, and then it'll look like on the lab paper that your detox channels aren't working, but they're just overloaded. And so we need to clear that out. We need to get rid of, this just stream of toxicity coming from the gut, and so that the liver can basically catch up with its backlog of work. So we don't directly address the adrenals. We don't directly address the thyroid. We don't directly address hormones. Now, that being said, again, there are sometimes certain herbs and supplements and lifestyle practices that can help support those organs in particular, but usually those practices are not enough on their own. Usually those practices are only helpful if used in tandem with a nutritional and lifestyle protocol that is going to reset the microbiome. Even though it feels like, how is my thyroid hormone related to my digestive tract? Like, that doesn't make any sense. You can see how I've laid out how it's completely connected. And getting your body into a balanced, thriving ecosystem is the root of healing really almost any condition. And so that's why I'm always going back to the microbiome. That's why I'm always talking about it and bragging on it to my clients, is because I'm the kind of practitioner that wants to get to the root. I don't just want to band-aid things. I want you actually thriving as a person, right? And to do that, we have to start from step one and go from there. So I hope that makes sense. I have gotten a few requests for videos recently, so I'll be getting to those in the next couple weeks. And if you want me to add anything to that list, you can always comment and let me know.